Can you build a farm with 1,000 buffaloes starting with just one? In this video, I'm taking on a massive challenge. My goal is to create a dairy empire that produces tens of thousands of liters of milk every month. But here's the catch. I'm not starting with a big farm and a team of helpers. I begin completely alone with just one buffalo and some basic equipment. Only as the farm grows will more players join in. And in total, as many as 16 people will have helped me. Will I be able to build the biggest buffalo farm in history? Let's find out. So let's hop into the tractor and start this amazing adventure. I attach the mowers and head out for the first grass harvest from my meadow. It might seem quite large, especially since I only have one animal for now, but it's better to stock up. Buffalo breed very slowly, so we'll need plenty of hay. At the start, I have two tractors, old but reliable. Every horsepower counts, so I hitched up a windrower and hired a worker. Unfortunately, despite many improvements, AI in this game is still far from its strongest feature. During the first grass cut, I had to rely on them, and of course there were complications. A stuck tractor, a windrower tangled in a fence. Classic. You just have to get used to the fact that not so smart workers are one of the key features of this game. Once part of the hay was already windrowed, I attached the forage wagon and finally fed my lonely buffalo, who had been waiting for food all this time. After he was full, I went back to work and finished mowing the meadow. After the harvest, it was time to clean all the equipment. The tractor and mowers looked like old wrecks, but after a thorough wash, they were shining again. I parked the machines in their place and then started fertilizing the meadow, all to ensure an even bigger yield next season. After a hard day, I could finally fall into a long winter sleep, waking up only occasionally to top up the hay in the trough. The storage was full and I still had just one buffalo. And so 11 months passed. Only then was the first calf born, and I have to admit, it looked absolutely adorable. But where did it come from if I only had one buffalo on the farm? Don't ask me. It's a mystery of this game. After a total of 92 months since starting this challenge, the hay in storage finally ran out, which meant one thing. It was time to invite the first real helper. Or actually two, because by then my farm had grown to 34 buffalo, and all of that thanks to just one grass harvest. But will things get easier now? That depends on the milk sales, which my first helper took care of. For the first milk delivery, I received a whopping 54,000. I decided to invest the money in a new tractor, the Challenger. It wasn't expensive, but it had an engine upgrade option up to 220 horsepower, so it was a great future-proof choice. My helpers got to work. One was mowing, another was tethering the grass, while I windrowed the hay into neat rows, which made the whole field ready for collection in no time. Well, almost. Gathering the hay took the most time because despite having two extra players, we only had one forage wagon. That was definitely the weakest point of my farm. To keep everyone busy, the second helper spread slurry on the field. Once everything was done, it was time for another long winter sleep to make the best use of our hay supplies. After 110 months in-game, over 9 years, the farm had 74 buffalo. The population had doubled thanks to the previous harvests. This time, we gathered just enough hay to speed up time by a few months until January, since that's when milk prices were at their highest. With the money earned, I bought another tractor identical to the previous one, allowing me to invite yet another player to help manage the buffalo. Now with 4 tractors, we could handle all the tasks at the same time. Thanks to real players, everything ran much more smoothly. This time there was none of the usual chaos that would have been unavoidable with AI workers. At the end, the hay collection team had a slight delay, but it wasn't a big issue. After everything was done, I fast forwarded to January, sold the milk, and decided to upgrade my mowing setup. I swapped out the rear mower for a much larger one since my tractor had plenty of power left. Plus, the windrower and tether had similar working widths, making everything line up perfectly. There were some small server issues, so I decided to try hard solo for a while and quickly earn money for another machine. However, that didn't go as planned. The worker, for some reason, started driving aimlessly across half the field, even though everything had worked fine before. Why did he suddenly decide to pull this stunt? No idea. To speed things up, I upgraded my windrower to a bigger one. I still had some cash left, so I bought the largest one in the game, ensuring it would last me until the end of the challenge. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, I didn't get much use out of it because the worker refused to tether the entire field. Why? Nobody knows. Having no choice, I fast-forwarded time by a few months and mowed the meadow again, this time keeping a close eye on the worker and doing a large portion of the work myself. In the end, I windrowed, collected everything and went to sleep. More precisely, I slept through to January when I sold the milk. Thanks to this, I managed to buy another tractor on sale. And here came my biggest surprise. I regret not paying attention to sales earlier because I often forget about them, and you can snag great deals, like this tractor at half the price. I fast forwarded to April to sell some milk because the price was quite decent. I wanted to buy a new tether since it was the only small equipment I still had. So I sold the milk and the old tether, but unfortunately I bought the new one not on sale. I decided to gather the meadow one last time by myself and earn some money to invite more players to my now well-developed farm. And so I've reached 144 months in game, exactly 12 years, and our first buffalo barn is fully stocked. Interestingly, the youngest animals in the pen are already 28 months old, and the entire barn consumes massive amounts of food. The problem? Despite having so many animals, we earn only 102,000 annually, even with harvesting the entire meadow, which takes a lot of time. In reality, it would be more profitable to sell older animals, since the younger ones between 12 and 18 months eat less but produce the same amount of milk. However, my main goal is to grow the herd, so I decided to start leasing machines and tractors. Initially, I didn't want to do this, but without it, the video would be terribly boring because this is already my almost 20th hour of gameplay and it felt like we were going nowhere. Time for greater development and new challenges. And so I leased an additional set of mowers, and then it was time to invite the players again. I must admit, the farm looked really solid. With a team of reliable workers, meaning players, we were ready to get to work. Unfortunately, I faced a big disappointment. For the first time, I took control of the mower myself because previously either the workers or other players handled it. I had no idea that my tractors could barely manage these mowers. For a moment, I even considered selling the tractors and replacing them with more powerful ones. But then one of the players came up with a brilliant idea. Instead of replacing the tractors, we could simply buy smaller mowers. They weren't that small, but they required significantly less power. So we made a slight change in strategy and finally got going at full speed. In the end, I also leased some loading wagons, 2 of them right away, to collect the hay as quickly as possible and move forward. Since many of the machines were leased, I only fast forwarded time until the grass grew back and the whole crew got back to mowing. I have to admit, this team was really efficient. The silo was filled in record time, so I built another one for storing hay. After another mowing session and of course thoroughly fertilizing the meadow, it was time for a short break. After the break, another 4 players joined in to take on the challenge of mowing the meadow, and so with a new crew, we filled yet another silo. So I built one more, and we managed to fill that one to the brim too. To be honest, I don't even remember exactly how many times that meadow was mowed. Either way, I had 3 full silos of hay, so I decided to return all the leased machines and fully utilize that hay for milk production. And so, in the 192nd month of the game, after selling the last barrel of milk, I had almost 400,000 in my account. That meant only one thing. It was time for a huge investment. I decided to build another barn, but I didn't go for the largest one. Not only would I not have enough money, but simply placing a larger pasture was a much better option, as it provided way more space for the animals. So I built a pasture covering the entire large meadow, giving me nearly 400 animal slots. I have to admit, the farm looked truly impressive. But now comes the big question. Where do I get food for the animals if I no longer have a meadow? The plan seems simple. I moved most of the animals to the new barn, hoping that the pasture, which provides 40% efficiency, would be enough for the animals to breed and produce some milk. As it turned out, not at all. The food from the pasture provided only minimal sustenance, and the milk production didn't increase by even 1%. The only thing that was being produced was slurry. In the old pen, the pasture didn't seem to exist at all, so I have no idea what's going on. Well, I just love this game. See you soon.